I remember 30, 40 years ago saying the general is contained in the specific, not the other way around. That it comes from James Joyce, this notion of the specific day containing the whole world, which is Ulysses. What do I do as a painter? I mean, it's very simple. You look for a single image which tells the whole story. It's not me that makes all these stories the same. It's the perpetrators of the injustice are worldwide and singular, that makes the stories the same. Really, we need to grapple with the concept of dealing with the injustice within the world as a single thing.
South towards Mexico. And years ago there were a lot of trees along these roads, but the Border Patrol had them cut down. They used the power lines as a navigational point. They just keep following the power lines, and that will get them to the paved road that we were on before we made the turn. And we're going to park right here, and then we're going to walk to this way.
Yeah.
And this is water that we leave here, that I leave.
Yeah.
So see, the gallons of water for migrants. There's a town in Sonora, Mexico. It's called Altar, and this is the valley that goes between the Baboquivari Mountains on that side and the Sierrita Mountains on this side, and this is the main corridor for migrants to come from the south, which is about 40 miles from here. They need to get to that paved road and then continue on. I cover an area of 50,000 square miles. There's no area that is completely finished because people continue to die because we have not been able to stop these deaths here. We're here for the long run.
Can you tell us what happened?
The van they were riding in got the attention of the Border Patrol.
Yeah.
And the Border Patrol started chasing the van.
Yeah.
And they flipped over here many times.
And they died in the crash.
Yeah, they died here in the crash, and this thing never made the news. This thing never made the newspapers, the television. But these people had names. We know their names. They had families. They had plans. They had dreams. They had people who loved them. They were trying to improve their lives in some way. They were looking for crumbles of the American dream.
700 in the last 5 years.
That's almost like like an airplane going down every year.
I had worked in Juarez with the victims of the femicide, and then later with the victims of the actual drug wars. And so it seemed natural to look at the victims of immigration policy here. It's the role of the artist to hold up Trotsky's cracked mirror to to society. It's been that way. That's what we do. We represent the world. Again, I'm often asked, is there joy in the process? Of course there's joy in the painting, you know. The getting it right is, whatever right is a journey from despair to joy.
Our goal is just to have as many water stations, water drops as we can. Make sure that they are in good shape, make sure the water is good. You take on a big commitment once you put water out because you don't want to put out water that gets bad. It's so much more deadly that more people die in the summer. And people die even with water. Water isn't enough. It helps, but it isn't enough on the really, really hot days.
I read somewhere that there was a kind of an agreement with Border Patrol
Right.
not to stake out
Right.
the water.
Right, and that's a very easy agreement for them because there's no way they can stake out. They
Such
don't
a
have
quick-
enough personnel
Yeah,
to
exactly.
be all over the desert staking out where water is being
Yeah.
dropped. Right now, we have a pretty stubborn guy who's been a really troublesome for us. He'll bring people out and they'll shoot the barrels, or they'll knock the nozzle out of the barrel, or they'll steal the flag or steal the barrel. They do various things, and then they stream it live and then ask for money to help them with what they're doing.
This thing has never stopped. It continues. It exists everywhere where you have a very good, healthy economy next door to one that isn't. Instead of trying to do what Europe did with its expansion of bringing all the economies up together that were within the European net, Americas ignore it. They leave it as it is.
Art is one way to get to people's hearts and mind. It's not enough to tell people, this is what's happening. You have to get to their feelings for them to decide to do something. And art is one really good way to do that. And we've seen that over and over again. A picture tells 1,000 words, and art can move a soul.
Hyperthermia, it is a very painful way of dying. You go crazy. Your brain fries. Yeah. You take your clothes off. You're thinking that you're in the middle of the ocean and you start swimming in the sand. And people commit suicide from the suffering and the agony. There are times when you run into a migrant who's very close to dying. You know that if you leave that person behind, he or she is going to die that night. You have to make a moral decision there.
Yeah.
Okay? And there are times when we have made those decisions.
Yes. Of course you have.
Because you couldn't.
Of course you have.
You couldn't live with yourself if you let that person die out there.
I think the only thing that will stop the deaths is creating the awareness of the deaths.
Yeah, I think that
I think you do this.
we have to make what's happening here visible to not just us here, but take it to academia, take it to the universities, take it to the young people.
Here I've done so far. I think I've done nine works. I have a an ambition to make maybe 20 at most. That's 20 out of 4,000. Like, just
Right.
yeah, there's no chance. So,
Yeah.
so
Well,
what it is it's a symbol for something.
Yeah, right.
You know.
It's first know your limitations. You know?
Yeah.
Really the biggest challenge or the biggest use of all this information that we collect is trying to figure out who people are. So it's identification.
Okay.
So the difficult part in the examination of these types of deaths is not necessarily the cause of death or why people died. It's trying to determine their identity so that we can try to return those remains to family members that might be looking for them. That's really what all of this is about. I mean, clearly and simplistically, if people had better conditions where they lived, then they wouldn't even consider leaving, right?
I see what I do as fiction. Sometimes you can tell the truth through fiction better. The truth, of course, here is not a skull found in the desert. It's a human being who was loved, who's disappeared. That's the truth.
Brian Maguire's work is a humanist work, absolutely humanist. He's very concerned by all the problems of our world and the atrocities of our world. And in that sense, I would say Brian Maguire's work is directly lined with, for example, Francesco Goya. All this work are directly inspired by photographs the artist found or maybe someone gave him. It gives us a very rare and very strong proximity with all the subjects you can see in the paintings. So it's not abstraction, it's real people, directly victims and dead from their dreams they wanted to reach. For Brian himself, what is important is a relationship with people, more than the show.